Once again, if you will open up your Bibles to Genesis chapter 13.
Abran su Biblia en Génesis capítulo 13.
13. And I want to thank again Ezer for helping me. And like I told him, I apologize to him. I normally try to get the lesson to him ahead of time, but it dawned on me late last night. I'm like, I sent that to him. So I would kind of put him in a little bit of a difficult spot, but I appreciate his help with that. Again, we're in Genesis 13.
Génesis capítulo 13.
To help set up our study, let's take a moment and notice what we learned in verses 1 and 2 last Wednesday evening.
Para ayudar a configurar nuestro estudio, tomemos un momento y observemos lo que aprendimos en los versículos 1 y 2 el miércoles pasado por la noche.
In Genesis 13 and verse 1, we read, "And Abram went up out of Egypt, he and his wife, and all that he had, and Lot with him into the south."
En Génesis capítulo 13, versículo 1 dice, subió pues Abraham de Egipto hacia el Negev, él y su mujer con todo lo que tenía y con él Lot.
Abram goes up out of Egypt, south. We normally say going south is going down. This isn't the case in Egypt.
Abraham sube del sur de Egipto. Normalmente decimos que ir al sur es bajar. Este no es el caso en Egipto.
However, south here is Negeb and can mean dry.
Sin embargo, sur aquí es Negev y puede significar seco.
The Negeb is a dry place.
El Negev es un lugar seco.
Verse 2, we read, "And Abram was very rich in cattle, in silver, and in gold."
Verso 2, y Abraham era riquísimo en ganado, en plata y en oro.
Abram is very rich.
Abraham era muy rico.
But how? He has made great gain from Sarai, more specifically from his lies.
¿Cómo? Se ha ganado mucho estar ahí, más específicamente de sus mentiras.
Again, we're touching on some things we looked at last week here for a moment. Does this mean lying is right or pleasing to God? Of course not.
¿Significa esto que mentir es correcto o agradable a Dios? Por supuesto que no.
Adam Clark quotes Josephus as saying, quote, that a part of this property was acquired by teaching the Egyptians arts and sciences. Thus did God fulfill his promises to him by protecting and giving him great profusion of temporal blessings, which were to him signs and pledges of spiritual things.
Adam Clark cita a Josefo diciendo que una parte de esta propiedad fue adquirida enseñando las artes y las ciencias a los egipcios. Así cumplió Dios sus promesas con él, protegiéndole y dándole gran profusión de bendiciones temporales que eran para él signos y prendas de cosas espirituales.
Verse 3.
Verso 3.
Read, "And he went on his journeys from the south, even to Bethel, unto the place where his tent had been at the beginning, between Bethel and Hai."
Y volvió por sus jornadas desde el Negev hacia Betel hasta el lugar donde había estado antes su tienda entre Betel y Ai.
He is back in the same place he was in Genesis 12 and verse 8.
Él está de vuelta en el mismo lugar en el que estaba en Génesis capítulo 12, versículo 18.
Genesis 12 and verse 8, we note here, says, "And he removed from thence unto a mountain on the east of Bethel, and pitched his tent, having Bethel on the west, and Hai on the east, and there he builded an altar unto the Lord, and called upon the name of the Lord."
Génesis capítulo 12, versículo 8. Luego se pasó de ahí a un monte al oriente de Betel y plantó su tienda, teniendo a Betel al occidente y Ai al oriente, y edificó ahí altar a Jehová e invocó el nombre de Jehová.
Note that he has returned to the altar, one of the altars, which he built.
Tenga en cuenta que ha regresado al altar, uno de los altares que construyó.
He, quote, calls on the name of the Lord.
Él invoca el nombre del Señor.
The idea being that he calls out to God, honoring him, a prayer, praise.
La idea es que llama a Dios honrándolo, oración, elogio.
We would do well to make certain that we are calling on the name of the Lord.
Haríamos bien asegurarnos de que estamos invocando el nombre del Señor.
1 Thessalonians 5 and verse 17 tells us, "Pray without ceasing."
Primera de Tesalonicenses 5:17 dice, orad sin cesar.
Though it is the Greek rather than Hebrew, we are taught that we, quote, call on the name of the Lord when we are baptized, Acts 22 and verse 16.
Aunque es griego en lugar de hebreo, se nos enseña que invocamos el nombre del Señor cuando somos bautizados. Dice en Hechos capítulo 22, versículo 16.
Here in Acts 22 and verse 16, we know here it says, "And now why tarriest thou? Arise and be baptized, and wash away thy sins, calling on the name of the Lord."
Hechos capítulo 22, versículo 16 dice, ahora pues, ¿por qué te detienes? Levántate y bautízate y lava tus pecados invocando su nombre.
Again in verse 5, we see that Lot is with him. This is Genesis 13, verse 5.
De nuevo, en el versículo 5 vemos que Lot está con él.
"And Lot also, which went with Abram, had flocks and herds and tents."
También Lot, que andaba con Abraham, tenía ovejas, vacas y tiendas.
Remember that God had told him to leave his family.
Recuerda que Dios le había dicho que dejara a la familia.
We here see problems arise from this.
Nosotros aquí vemos que surgen problemas de esto.
Genesis chapter 13, verses 6 through 8.
Génesis capítulo 13, versículos 6 al 8.
"And the land was not able to bear them, that they might dwell together, for their substance was great, so that they could not dwell together. And there was a strife between the herdmen of Abram's cattle and the herdmen of Lot's cattle. And the Canaanite and the Perizzite dwelled then in the land. And Abram said unto Lot, Let there be no strife, I pray thee, between me and thee, and between my herdmen and thy herdmen, for we be brethren."
Génesis capítulo 13, versículos 6 al 8 dice, y la tierra no era suficiente para que habitasen juntos, pues sus posesiones eran muchas y no podían morar en un mismo lugar. Y hubo contienda entre los pastores del ganado de Abraham y los pastores del ganado de Lot, y el cananeo y el pereceo habitaban entonces en la tierra. Entonces Abraham dijo a Lot, no hay ahora altercado entre nosotros dos, entre mis pastores y los tuyos, porque somos hermanos.
The land is not big enough for the two of them. This shows how well they were doing God is taking care of them.
La tierra no era lo suficientemente grande para los dos. Esto demuestra lo bien que lo estaban haciendo. Dios los ha cuidado.
There is strife between their herdmen.
Hay contienda entre sus pastores.
We can see that not following God's instructions causes problems.
Podemos ver que no seguir las instrucciones de Dios causa problemas.
This is an important lesson for us today.
Esta es una lección importante para nosotros hoy.
I want us to think for a moment. Can we obey God by doing only part of what He has instructed us to do?
Quiero que pensemos por un momento, ¿podemos obedecer a Dios haciendo solo una parte de lo que nos ha mandado hacer?
Of course not.
Por supuesto que no.
Is obeying doing all that is commanded taught?
Obedecer es hacer todo lo que se manda, se enseña.
Let me rephrase that. Is obeying God's command doing all that God taught?
Obedecer es hacer todo lo que se manda, se enseña.
Of course it is.
Por supuesto que es.
Notice Abram's solution is to divide it up.
Note que la solución de Abraham es dividir.
Notice again in verse 8.
En versículo 8.
And Abram said unto Lot, Let there be no strife, I pray thee, between me and thee, and between my herdmen and thy herdmen, for we be brethren.
Génesis 13, versículo 8, dice, entonces Abraham dijo a Lot, no haya ahora altercado entre nosotros dos, entre mis pastores y los tuyos, porque somos hermanos.
Verse 9 is, not the whole land before thee? Separate thyself, I pray thee, from me. If thou wilt take the left hand, then I will go to the right. Or if thou depart to the right hand, then I will go to the left.
Versículo 9, ¿no está toda la tierra delante de ti? Yo te ruego que te apartes de mí, si fueres a la mano izquierda, y yo iré a la derecha. Y si tú a la derecha, yo iré a la izquierda.
He gives Lot the choice of which way to go. How does this fit with God's promises and instructions found in chapter 12?
Note que la solución de Abraham es dividir, le da a Lot la elección de qué camino tomar. ¿Cómo encaja esto con las promesas e instrucciones de Dios que se encuentran en él en el capítulo 12?
Does he have the right to do this?
¿Tiene derecho a hacer esto?
No.
No.
God had not given the land to Lot, nor to his descendants.
Dios no le había dado la tierra a Lot ni a los descendientes de Lot.
Hold your question, Steve. I see you got one. We'll get there in a minute. In verses 10 and following, notice a flaw in Lot's standards.
En los versículos 10 y siguientes notamos una falla en los estándares de Lot.
Beginning in verse 10, we read, And Lot lifted up his eyes, and behold, all the plain of Jordan, that it was well watered everywhere, before the Lord destroyed Sodom and Gomorrah, even as the garden of the Lord, like the land of Egypt, as thou comest unto Zoar. Then Lot chose him all the plain of Jordan, and Lot journeyed east, and they separated themselves the one from the other. 10 y 11.
En el versículo 10 y 11 dice, y alzó Lot sus ojos y vio toda la llanura del Jordán, que todo ella era de riego como el huerto de Jehová, como la tierra de Egipto en la dirección de Zoar, antes que destruyese Jehová Sodoma y Gomorra. Y entonces Lot escogió para sí toda la llanura del Jordán, y se fue Lot hacia el oriente, y se apartaron el uno del otro.
Lot chooses the plain of Jordan, verse 11, because it was well watered everywhere, verse 10.
Lot elige la llanura del Jordán, verso 11, porque estaba bien regada por todas partes, versículo 10.
This seems like a good idea. Water is important. We've noticed that lately, isn't it? The problem is that Lot ends up in the midst of wicked people.
Esto parece una buena idea, el agua es importante, ¿no? El problema es que Lot termina en medio de gente malvada.
Of course, we note that the people throughout the land were wicked. However, this area is worse, as we will see.
Por supuesto, notamos que la gente en toda la tierra era inicua. Sin embargo, esta zona es peor, como veremos.
Note in verse 13, but the men of Sodom were wicked and sinners before the Lord exceedingly.
Noten el verso 13, mas los hombres de Sodoma eran malos y pecadores contra Jehová en gran manera.
In verses 14 and following, God renews his promises to Abram. He tells Abram that he will give the land to him and his descendants.
En los versículos 14 y siguientes, Dios renueva su promesa a Abraham. Le dice a Abraham que le dará la tierra a él y a su descendencia.
Beginning in verse 14, we read, and the Lord said unto Abram, after that Lot was separated from him, lift up now thine eyes, and look from the place where thou art northward, and southward, and eastward, and westward. For all the land which thou seest, to thee will I give it, and to thy seed forever. And I will make thy seed as the dust of the earth, so that if a man can number the dust of the earth, then shall thy seed also be numbered.
Versículo 14 al 16 dice, y Jehová dijo a Abraham, después que Lot se apartó de él, alza ahora tus ojos y mira desde el lugar donde estás hacia el norte y al sur y al oriente y al occidente. Porque toda la tierra que ves la daré a ti y a tu descendencia para siempre, y haré tu descendencia como el polvo de la tierra, que si alguno puede contar el polvo de la tierra, también tu descendencia será contada.
Man often has other ideas, but God is going to carry out his will.
El hombre muchas veces tiene otras ideas, pero Dios va a hacer su voluntad.
And you can note in Genesis 12, verses 1 through 3, the promises that God made to Abram.
Pueden notar en el capítulo 12,
Chapter 12, verses 1 through 3.
1 y 2 al 3.
Genesis 13 and verse 18.
Génesis capítulo 13, versículo 18.
Then Abram removed his tent and came and dwelt in the plain of Mamre, which is in Hebron, and built there an altar unto the Lord.
Abraham, pues, removiendo su tienda, vino y moró en el encinar de Mamre, que está en Hebrón, y edificó ahí altar a Jehová.
I want to thank you for your attention
Gracias por su atención esta noche.
this evening. And we do have just a short bit left. If you have any questions. Steve, you look like you had some things. ¿Alguna preguntas o comentarios? Questions or comments?
Well, what you're saying about Lot and
About him going?
Abraham being disobedient by bringing Lot with him, I think that's valid, absolutely. There's not, Haran,
Haran.
Lot's dad, or Haran.
Yeah, however you say it.
Haran died
Mm-hmm.
Terah, and it said Terah removed, came up with Abraham.
To
Terah,
the city of, and they went to Haran or Haran.
Haran, but after he died, then, and it's like, I know the Lord had told him in Acts 7, in Stephen's account, that the Lord told him to leave the land of Chaldean. No,
Told him to leave the land and his family, it said.
I know
Go ahead.
Terah brought him out of there. And I don't know for sure if he was being disobedient or the Lord had him wait there until Terah died. Once Terah died, then they came on down. But him bringing Lot with him, Lot's dad died.
Yeah.
I'm sure they had a close relationship, Abraham and Lot came with him. I don't see any disobedience to God in that. And even going to Egypt, he said he was disobedient. I don't know anywhere God told him not to go to Egypt.
Well, where did God tell him to go?
He went to Canaan, but
Yeah.
in the famine, he went down there.
Yeah, but here's the question though. If he
But you're assuming that.
He never says specifically he did not tell him not to go, but when he tells him to go and tells him where to go, isn't that where he's supposed to go?
He did.
And did
And
God
in the
tell him to?
famine, he moved.
But do we read where God told him to leave there?
Well,
I see your point. I see your point.
Yeah.
That as far as with both of those, I see your point that that there is some question. I'm just taking literally what God is telling him. He says, leave your home, leave your family, and go. Now he told him that before they stopped in Haran. He told them to leave out of you read there in Acts 7 verses 2 through 4, and then also what you read there in Genesis 12:4. You see that he tells him to leave. Now, it's Acts chapter 7, verse 2 through 4, where he tells him to, where Stephen, rehearsing this, says he told him when he was in the land of, and I'm paraphrasing, told him when he was in the land of of the Chaldees, he told him to leave. And what? Go to a land that I'll show you. Now, he goes, he leaves, but where did he stop? We're not told that God said stop in Haran. He told him to go over here.
But it didn't say not to. He went.
But we have to be careful when we start saying he didn't tell him not to. Yeah, because when God, I mean, I know this is not what you're saying, and I'm not trying to put words in your mouth by any means, but we see in today where people, they make that very argument, don't they? God didn't say don't. God said sing, but he didn't say don't use a mechanical. What did God say?
He was obeying God.
He obeyed him
on his way.
But then he stopped. Did God say stop?
I don't know.
But we're not.
I know he did, and I don't think God wanted Terah down in there.
But did he want Lot down there either?
Why not? You got Abraham there.
Yeah, but that's who he was talking to, Steve. That's what I'm saying.
I know, but Lot was like a son to him.
And I see that point in the sense, and we keep in mind there were in that region, of course, Abram, after Terah died, Abram is certainly the patriarch of his family. So in a sense, you could argue that Lot becomes like a son to him, and as such, he would be part of his family. But and I'm not going to pick a fight with you about it. I'm just saying, if you take literally what he says leave there, go to the land I'm showing you. Well, where's the land? We know subsequently, where's the land that he told him? I mean, we see here that he tells him, this is the land. In chapter 12, when he's in the land of Canaan, he specifically tells him, this is the land I want you in. And so that's where he wanted him in. Now, again, yes, the famine, but and I made this point last week, in my thoughts, and you don't, if you see it differently, I'm not going to pick a fight with you about it, but in my thoughts is that, is God able to overcome famine? Is God able to take care of him even in the face of that famine?
Well,
God tells him, here's where I want you. And God,
let me ask you a question.
that's just like with Abimelech and Pharaoh. I think it was Pharaoh, right?
Yeah.
What did Abram do? He said, oh, say this is my sister. Why?
They will do family. What about, why did he want Joseph in Egypt and everybody else then followed Joseph during the famine?
Well, he wanted them all in there because he wanted them in Egypt for those 400 years.
Why didn't he take care of the famine there?
Because that was his intent, and we're taught that was his intent. But we're not told that was his intent in.
You don't know what Abraham may have learned by his mistake, what he did. I don't know, but I just think I need to be quiet. So,
Oh, it's okay, Steve. I don't mind.
no. That's going to next week.
Oh, he's just saying we can kind
Yeah,
of bring that out a
study
little
about
more. Jim, did you have something?
When you started, you said that basically that Abraham was rich
Yes.
and that he gained it all by ill means.
Well, I quoted Adam Clark as pointing out that not necessarily all of it. I did say that if you look at how he got rich, he clearly, I'm not going to say all, and if I gave that impression, I'm not going to say all of his wealth came from his lies ultimately, but clearly we see that he was given stuff by what, Abimelech and Pharaoh, as a matter of fact, I think, or at least Pharaoh. Why? Because he says, this is my sister. Oops, not my sister. And here's these things to appease you.
I understand that.
So not all. If I gave the impression all, no, that's not what I'm suggesting. But there was definitely a part of it that came from his lies.
We do see him doing a lot of teaching, a lot of things of this nature. We see him being a very good manager of what he had.
Sure. I don't dispute that.
So to say that he,
Again, I did not say all, and if I gave that impression, then I need to be careful about how I'm wording it. It's not all, but he clearly got
son,
what? He got some wealth from the fact that he was lying. You know, which again is not to suggest that God is rewarding him for his lies, because I can do wrong, go rob the bank and get some wealth. I'm probably going to end up in jail, but I'd go get, rob the bank and get wealth. But that's not God being pleased with me robbing the bank.
it seems like every time I gain something through less than appropriate means, God always penalizes me for it.
Do we see that with Abram?
That's, I see Abraham gaining wealth as he goes.
Yes, but
Which
again,
is showing,
are you disputing?
it's showing God's hand in it.
Oh, I'm not disputing that. God made a promise to him. But again, are you disputing that Abram lied, that Abram got some wealth, part of his wealth, from those lies?
Yeah, but did he benefit from it?
He benefited as far as having wealth from it.
You can have it, but you can't keep it.
Yeah, but are we told that he lost that because of after he lied? I don't read anywhere about where he lost it. So
What happens to ill-gotten gains? Do you keep it? Is God gonna pat you on the back for it?
I didn't say God did pat him on the back, Jim. I think you're again. I want to be clear.
No,
I'm not saying all,
Look on into the judgment.
but there is no there is no disputing that Abraham lied, or Abram, as he was called then. Abram lied. He was given wealth based on those lies, as a result of those lies. And I'm not told, I don't read anywhere, if you have it, then great, but I don't read anywhere where he lost that wealth.
Is there anywhere that indicates that God was displeased with him? He continues his journey. And in Genesis
As far as the
15,
lies, or as far as...
Genesis 15, God repeats the promise he makes in 12.
Displeased with what? Specifically, Steve, the lies?
God is pleased with Abraham, the man that he was.
Yes, but I'm trying to
And
clarify what you're
God
asking.
would never be pleased with lying.
No, and I didn't say he would, but he lied. Abram,
So there's no doubt about it. Nobody would argue about that.
that's what I'm saying. He lied. He got wealth from it.
No, I don't think he got wealth.
Did he lie to Pharaoh and Abimelech? Yes. Did a Pharaoh and Abimelech, or at least I think it was Pharaoh, but maybe both of them, give him wealth based on trying to make peace?
Not his wealth. He was a wealthy man.
Oh, I didn't say he got all. Again, I'm not saying he got all. I think you guys are drawing lines that aren't there. I mean, there's no question. There's no question. He lied. He got wealth from those lies. Not all of his wealth, but he certainly gained from those. But that is not to say God was pleased with those things. John, did you have?
Yeah, I'm just curious. This is the same lot that's in Sodom and Gomorrah, right?
Yes.
How did he lose everything?
Who?
He's a wealthy farmer.
Are you talking about Lot or Abram?
Lot.
Lot.
Because
He lost everything whenever he goes down to the, and we're going to get into this in, what is it, 19, I think, chapter 19. He goes down into Sodom and Gomorrah there, and then basically all this wickedness is going on, and God sends the messengers down there and says, you need to leave because we can't destroy this place until you're gone, and then had to drag him out. And of course, all of that, and we'll get to that. But he basically lost it all because he got down in there all amongst them, and when at the last minute they said, "Here, it's time to go. Get out."
if he was,
and it was all destroyed.
Yeah, he's the wealthy rancher, like Abraham is, cattle. He should have been in the city to start with. He should have been with his cows, everything else. He should never have been in Sodom.
Well, again, as we touched on, he looked at things physical. He looked at it and saw that it was well watered and everywhere, and he saw that it was a good place for cattle, and that's what he judged on. He didn't look over here and say, oh, wait a minute, these people are really bad people, and I don't need to be down there amongst them, which is a lesson for us to learn. We need to be very careful. Hermanos? No? Okay, we'll stop there. Appreciate everyone who joined us on YouTube.
Thank you, Robert.
Thank you.